Greetings everybody, it's Rob, and I'm here bringing you a new type of video to my channel for Pathfinder 2nd edition. And this one is going to be a bit different. It's going to be talking about some of the creatures in Pathfinder 2e. Now, not just talking about the creatures, but talking about how to use them, little tips and tricks and kind of things that I like about some of the creatures. So the first creature that I'm choosing to do this for is the Mukradi. Now, the Mukradi is a very weird-sounding creature, but what it is it's a three-headed centipede that is gargantuan size, so it's huge. And on top of that, each head has a different breath weapon. One can shoot acid, one can shoot fire, one can shoot cold damage, and it's quite an impressive beast. I actually used one in my Age of Ashes campaign, and it is definitely a interesting creature. Now, there's a few reasons why it's interesting. One, it actually has resistances to obviously acid, fire, and electricity. I misspoke earlier when I said cold. And what makes it interesting is that it does a lot of damage. It has multiple heads. Each head can do an attack that can do elemental damage. It has breath weapons for each one of those three. It can thrash around, so it can kind of do multiple attacks and basically hit the whole party if they're within range with various attacks. Now, you would think with all this that the creature might be a bit insane. It is a CR 15 creature, so it is definitely up there in the challenge and probably later on in whatever campaign or game you're playing in. Now, I will say the one thing that makes this creature very interesting is its rip apart ability. So basically, if two jaws hit the same target, it can essentially grab them both and kind of pull on both sides. And doing so requires a fortitude save from the target. And if they critically fail the attack, they die. It rips them in half. Otherwise, they just take damage. And there's no other save, there's no incapacitation trait. It's just if they fail this, they critically fail the save, they get torn in half and die. And this was one of the first times I've seen like a straight out kill effect on a creature in some time. And it's unique. Now, the save isn't terrible for around the level that you should be facing it. It is still possible to crit fail, but it's not too bad it can't be crit fail. What makes this creature kind of balanced, if you will, is this AC is at a 37 by default. I say default because you can bump it up to like an elite with 39 and so forth. But that's not terrible for around CR 15. I mean, it can get hit relatively consistently. It does have a good chunk of HP. It's in like the 300s. And it does have the elemental resistances to kind of help balance that out as well. The other catch with this creature is the fact that it is a reflex save is actually pretty poor. It's its worst reflex save. So if the party can target the reflex save, well, it's going to do really good if they can target the reflex save, because it only has a plus 23, and you figure around level 15, the party's save DC should probably be somewhere in the 30s, give or take, somewhere mid 30s. So it's a good chance that it might fail the save, possibly even crit failing some of them. So that's its weakness. I'll be trying to go forward to with this massive centipede is going to be tough. It's not going to be easy. Now, one other aspect I like about this creature is the fact that as a basically three-headed centipede, it has a unique ability where if you confuse, stun, or paralyze, slow the creature, it can essentially kind of focus all into one head, essentially shutting down one head and keeping the rest of the body going. So you can't slow it, you can't stun it and all that stuff. It'll just transfer it to one head and the other two heads will remain functional. And that's a cooler treat for as well. It also has a similar dragon feature, kind of where like if it crits, it can automatically recharge its breath weapon and even shoot it right then again afterwards. So this thing's gonna pump out a ton of damage, and it really is a true glass cannon type of a monster because of how much damage it can pump out, but it can go down pretty quickly if the party can plan out strategically what they need to do. Now, what drew me into this creature as kind of an interesting creature and as one of my first creatures is the fact that in lower level games, there's always those like kind of basic enemies you always face, you know, giant spiders or ghouls, skeletons, giant bats, etc. And usually you fight a giant centipede or two at some point. You know, it's a good little like low CR creature. And it's nice to see essentially a massive version of a giant centipede, because it's a 3-headed centipede. Just the idea of it is cool. I'm gonna pop the art out on the screen for you guys. And just looking at the idea of having this creature that is essentially a 3-headed elemental breathing centipede that is just a beast. It's not like a small little like 10-20 foot thing. I mean, this is massive. Just seeing it kind of like slither out from its nest or wherever its hole is hiding up in, I mean, that's just a cool visual of a massive fight. It could be a boss fight. It could be a guardian to like a lair. It can be all sorts of things depending on where you want to put it in your encounter design. Now, speaking of encounter design, the room you want to put it in is probably going to be dependent on how much you want to do. It does have a bit flexibility with the fact that it has breath weapons, but you don't want to give the party too much room to where the creature can't really like, it has to like choose its targets as opposed to like being able to get in, thrash around and do tons of damage. So give it enough space for the breath weapons to really shine, but don't cramp it too much where it can't, you know, it can barely squeeze around, or it just, you know, it's unfair for the party if they're all stuck in this room with this massive creature that takes up half the room, and there's no way for them to flank it, there's no way for them to, you know, get around, no way for them to kind of position themselves in a way that makes it, you know, beneficial for them, or even get in the air, like fly above it and rain down spells. That's another possibility that they can do to it. So those are all definitely ways that the party can handle it. Now, my party, as I mentioned, did do some of these things. You know, they had some players run up front, and the players that ran up front, like the fighters, the ranger, and those, they were taking hits. I mean, the damage that this thing was pumping out in multiple hits can really hurt. But you had some of the spellcasters in the air, in the back, shooting down spells, shooting down cold spells that doesn't get blocked by any of the resistances, reflex targeting spells, and it goes down pretty quickly. And it kind of puts you on this intense clock of a battle where you have to fight essentially in this really tough monster. Now, the reason why I like this fight and why I kind of wanted this to be my first fight was this is one of the memorable creatures throughout the Age of Ashes campaign that I've played. There's definitely been some other ones, but this one, when I saw it in the book, and I think it comes in book 4, I believe, Fires of the Haunted City, that it's originally in, and I'm like, this is a really cool creature. Like, I looked at the stat block, I looked at where they put it in the actual book, and I'm like, this is gonna be a fun fight. And yes, I did try and kind of do the rip apart move on like the animal companion or something, just to kind of give them some pressure, but not like, you know, really punish them for not knowing what the creature is. And I did do some damage. I did do a chunk of damage. It was a threatening creature, and it's nice when you see your players have that like, oh shit moment where they go, oh no, we gotta figure out how to deal with this thing fast, because we cannot go toe to toe with this creature, you know, melee to melee combat, because it's just gonna rip us apart with how much damage this thing can churn out at us pretty consistently as well. So that's a nice change as opposed to some of the other creatures that you sometimes get in various like Pathfinder campaign books and that you may normally play. This one definitely felt more like a threat, and it was fun as a GM to actually play this creature. And frankly, I can see this creature showing up in other campaigns, and probably wouldn't jump into your mind if you were going through the bestiary books trying to find a cool creature to use. You think, oh, I want this really cool creature for my cave dungeon that I'm doing. Why not a Mukradi? Hell, they even talk about in the lore for the Mukradi some sort of like black scaled Mukradi that can acidic goo. They don't give a stat block for it, but hey, that could be a custom creature that you can make into your own dungeon, you know? And it even talks about like elder gods, like that the creatures originated from. So there's a lot to this one creature. If you asked me what a Mukradi is before I had to run this creature, I would have had no idea what this creature is. So to sum it up, just to kind of bring a summary all together, the Mukradi is the first creature I want to talk about, and I think is a blast. It is a creature that you don't normally hear about, and frankly, you don't know exists. But when you see it, you go, I must use this creature. It looks awesome. The thought of your players' faces and their reactions when they see this master centipede come out and you slam that token or you slam that miniature on the board and they go, oh my god, it is just chef's kiss. It's beautiful. Have you guys used a Mukradi before? Have you fought a Mukradi before? Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your guys' experience with this creature. And while you're down there, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more Pathfinder 2nd Edition content. I will be making more of these monster talk videos about various monsters from Pathfinder 2e. I feel like don't get as much love and kind of giving them the spotlight to talk about. So thank you guys for watching this video.